Welcome back, Rebel fans. You're listening to another episode of the Rebel Talk presented by the Rebel Walk. I'm Cam Wicker, and as always, I'm here with
Zach Moreth.
and we're going to talk a little Ole Miss sports of the recent weeks, just as always. We'll talk a little baseball. We'll hop in that in a moment. Game today against Arkansas State was canceled in Jonesboro due to some rain delays. I don't think they're going to make that up. I believe that's what they said today, Zach. Yeah, so we'll talk about that soon. We'll talk about men's and women's basketball portal talk. A lot of commitments there. A lot of people, a lot of names getting thrown around that could be committed soon. We'll get more into that, and then we'll talk some football, some spring football coming to an end. Portal opening. You got recruiting with some high school guys. We'll get more into that later. But let's hop into baseball, Zach. Really just a great weekend for Ole Miss fans. Hadn't beat Mississippi State since 2015. I believe they swept them. I mean, if Ole Miss fans recall, I think that was like Earl Robinson, Will Gleason, J.B. Woodman. That was like the early days of those guys coming into Ole Miss. I believe they're like freshmen, sophomores during that year. Don't really recall off the top of my head like how much playing time they got, but yeah, if Ole Miss fans remember that was a sweep back then. 2-1 this weekend, dropped on Friday, didn't look great, and then extras on Saturday, and then blowout on Sunday. Just kind of what did you see this weekend, Zach, that really excited you for the upcoming weeks in Ole Miss baseball?
Like you said, Cam, just the resilience from this team on Saturday and Sunday to come back how they did, especially after Friday. You know, on my notes, it just says I'm not going to go into that. We lost 8-0. There was no offense and no pitching, so it doesn't get worse than that. And now you're staring down the barrel of we might lose to Mississippi State for the 8th year in a row, on top of having another atrocious SEC record. But just the resilience from this team to win in 12 innings. Shout out to Jackson Ross. That was a really clutch hit. That single to left center to win the game. Ole Miss won 10-9. And the next day, the bats stayed hot and 14-2 W. Shout out to Ethan Leger, too. Hell of a weekend for the kid. Went 3 for 6 on Saturday. And then I think he had 2 homers on Sunday. So he's really emerging. He's really emerging kind of just as this leader, as this focal point of this Ole Miss team. It's good to see because Mike talked to us, even before the season. Ethan he's preached to this team all year long. Let's get to Omaha. That's all he wants to do. So just to see him emerge and take on this role, it's been a lot of fun. I was pleased to see Mike get tossed out of the game Saturday night. A lot of tensions were high the whole night, obviously, but then we got the bat flip at the dugout, and Mike was completely in the right. He should have been tossed. But instead, Mike got tossed. I do believe it fired up the guys, though, and led to an awesome series win, Cam.
Absolutely. And like going back to Leje, like you said, we talked to Mike Bianco on Sunday. He commented, said just a great leader, having a great season. And I like you said, just 3 home runs this weekend. He had 1 on Saturday as well. I believe he has 11 on the year already. That's second on the team to Andrew Fisher, who has 13. Really just a great duo there. I believe he's batting above 350. And last year, if you watch Ethan Leger last year, he struggled when he got into SEC play. And, I mean, he came into SEC play batting about 400 this year and kind of went down. But obviously, you're batting 400. It's not going to stay the same.
Right.
Obviously, unless you're a guy like Jack Caglione, who I believe just hit a 500-foot home run today. That is insane. But Ethan Leger, man, he's having a great season. You love to see it. I believe he's a senior, so it's probably his last ride here at Ole Miss. Trying to get in the playoffs, like he said, trying to get back to Omaha like that team did a few years back. But other than Ethan Leger, Jackson Ross, really Mason Nichols on the mound on Sunday.
Oh, yeah.
Really earning his spot, man. Love to see it for him. And gave some great quotes after the game about being just a kid from Jackson, Mississippi, who just wanted it bad, did everything here at Ole Miss from winning a championship to making super regionals and hosting playoff games and stuff, and really just excited for him to be that hometown kid to just beat Mississippi State for the first time in nearly a decade. And it was just really good to see that team just build some momentum going into the latter half of the SEC season. I believe they're sitting around 5th in the SEC West. They're still in that Hoover bubble right now with Missouri.
Yes.
I think both teams are 5-10. You're above LSU and Auburn. So you really need a win this weekend when you're going into Athens. They play Georgia. Georgia's 24th. You have another chance to beat a ranked opponent. And you don't really want to get too caught up in the rankings if you're Ole Miss right now. You're trying to just get back into it. You're trying to get back into the middle pack of the SEC and work into a better seeding when it comes to Hoover. And this weekend's going to just be something to build on that. And I mean, last weekend, the base running, the defense, I mean, I believe on Saturday, the defense didn't look too great. But I mean,
Yeah,
other than that, defense, base running, even situational hitting looked great for Ole Miss. It seemed like
agreed.
Mike Bianco was calling bunts a lot more when players just in teams. I think State just didn't know what to do. State just didn't know what to do. Mike Bianco didn't bunt a lot in 20 years at Ole Miss, and they just didn't know what to do when guys were laying bunts down left and right. But this weekend, really just got to make sure Charlie Condon just doesn't do too much damage. Don't let too many guys on base before Charlie Condon's up to bat, because you know what he can do. Really just limit the other guys. Let Condon get his, because he's going to. He's a big league hitter. He's going to get on base. So just let him do his thing, get the other guys out. And I believe Ole Miss has a good chance to win this weekend in Athens if they can carry that momentum into the next weekend. And obviously, you don't need to get swept, but dropping 2 here isn't the worst thing. You have, I believe, LSU coming up later in the year, Auburn later in the year. So, I mean, two series that you can win there. Obviously, Texas A&M later in the year too. But I believe looking at the schedule coming up for Ole Miss is not the worst thing.
That's a great way to put it, Cam. And already we faced Kentucky, Arkansas, and Tennessee, who are 3 easily top 10 programs. I know it's weird throwing Kentucky in there, but still, they're balling this year. And when you see that, you're able to move forward and kind of hopefully take advantage of these series in Athens. But again, Charlie Condon is an incredible player. For those who don't know, he's basically the Dylan Cruz of college baseball this year. Guy has an unbelievable batting average. He can hit the ball all over the yard. But again, just try and limit him and the guys around him. Score. You have to score. And just keep the momentum rolling on both sides of the ball. And I think you can easily go take 2 in Athens.
Absolutely. So baseball plays this weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I believe it'll probably be the same pitching rotation with Maddox, Doyle, and Nichols. No really reason to switch it up there after you get the weekend series win against State. So that's it for baseball. Heading into some women's basketball, some portal talk here. Well, actually, we'll mention Marquisha Davis first. She goes 11th last night in the first round to the New York Liberty. Congrats to Marquisha Davis. She had a great year this past year at Ole Miss. Really just watching her this past year, she's probably one of the best ball handlers I've seen in Ole Miss in a long time. And really just happy for her. Happy she gets that next level, gets to go to the next level and play in New York. Happy for her. Hopping into some portal talk, though. One commitment for women's basketball and another one from Arkansas to talk about, too. We'll get into her later. But Dee Hageman from Michigan State committed to Ole Miss earlier last week. 5'7" guard. She played 3 years at Michigan State, started 77 of 87 games, and she averaged 5 assists a game every year of her career there at Michigan State. That's really what Ole Miss kind of needs. KK Dean's coming back, adding some more experience to that backcourt. And Dee Hageman's a great shooter as well. She's 52% from the field last year, 41% from 3, averaged 12 points a game. She's going to bring some experience to that backcourt, like I said, with KK Dean's, and it's going to be fun to watch her next year along with that Coach Yo Team 50.
Right. Exactly, Cam. We know the front court is stacked. There's probably more reinforcements on the way. So it's kind of just establishing some depth and, again, some leadership in that backcourt, and that's what Hageman brings. Averages 12 points per game about. And, again, that 5 assists per game stands out to me. Also, apparently she led the Big Ten and set a school record with a 2.84 assist-to-turnover ratio, which, again, incredible. She shares the ball. She doesn't turn it over a lot. So that's a great sign for Coach Yo and Team 50.
Absolutely. Watching her highlight reel, she definitely is a flashy passer type of guard. But, yeah, I really liked her three-point shot. She was knocking them down in pretty much every highlight reel I was watching of her. Like I said, the Arkansas transfer that is kind of on the market right now for Ole Miss. I think it's really down to Bama at Ole Miss is what I'm hearing on social media and just rumored around. Sailor Poffenbarger. She's just a double-double machine, really. 10 points a game last year, 11 rebounds a game. As a sophomore, she was a freshman at UConn. Didn't really play much. I think about 10 or 12 games at UConn. And really just a great defender, great shooter, and just gets to the rim a lot, and obviously great rebounder. But really the defending part, this is what Coach Yo is going to really want. She's going to want to put that big front court up there. Obviously, Carissa Richardson's coming back. And if you add Poffenbarger to that, that's going to be really good front court right there for Ole Miss.
Exactly. And then you throw Madison Scott in the mix, and all of a sudden this team has depth. This team has people that can rebound. This team has people that can score, kind of people who can do it all, Cam. So I think that's kind of what Coach Yo's going for. And again, Sailor, what was she averaging? 11 rebounds a game. That that's going to fit perfectly. Again, clearly a lot of potential on the defensive side of things. And she was recruited to UConn out of high school. Like the talent's clearly there, and she showed it. But I think she can take it to a next level here at Ole Miss.
Absolutely. Keep an eye out for more women's basketball portal talk. Like hearing some other names involved there. Won't speak too much on that, but just keep an eye out for Coach O in the portal. Like every year, she's going to do damage, just like every other coach at Ole Miss is going to do. Seems like the portal is kind of a trademark for every Ole Miss
Yes,
coach
dude.
at this point. Hopping into some men's college basketball portal talk. Coach Chris Beard has been doing some damage in the portal. Malik Dia and Mikhail Brown-Jones committed to Ole Miss this past week. We'll talk more about them, share some highlights about them. But really, I want to jump into these other guys first who really aren't committed to Ole Miss yet, but in connections with them. Let's talk about Dre Davis. Zach, what do you think about Dre Davis from Seton Hall right now?
He's an elite scorer. He does it all, Cam. He a lot of energy, brings a lot of energy. If anyone tuned into the NIT games, I believe he made the game winner for Seton Hall against Indiana State to win the NIT. So in high pressure moments, he comes alive, and that's what you want out of a player in the portal. Against UConn, like both games when Seton Hall played UConn, he had 17 and 20 points. So again, just his ability to rise to the occasion impressed me. He comes from the Big East, which is a really competitive basketball conference. So just that experience, I think, is going to benefit Beard. He's 6'6", 210, just your typical small forward. But again, he does it all. And you put him alongside these recent commits like Brown-Jones and Malik Dia, and all of a sudden he can really start to emerge as a top-tier player, Cam.
Absolutely. And obviously, you're going to need some guys to replace some guys like Matthew Morrell, Alan Flanagan, who
Right,
brought some elite scoring to Ole Miss last year. Like you said, Dre Davis, he's going to bring experience. He's a flashy guard, flashy forward, gets to the rim. Solid jumper from what I've seen from his highlights as well.
for sure.
Not a consistent shooter, but gets to his spots a lot. 15 points a game last year. I believe he was at Louisville before that for 2 years. He started pretty often
Yes,
there, so big time program in Louisville, and then transferred over to Seton Hall. So really excited about that. I believe visit Oxford today, so we'll hear more about him in the future if
for sure.
he decides to commit to Ole Miss. Pop Isaacs is the other guy I wanted to talk about from Texas Tech, guard. Sources say he's been in touch with Beard. And, obviously Beard and the Texas Tech connection there.
Right.
Started 58 of 59 games in 2 years at Texas Tech. So, I mean, that's right off the bat coming out of high school, just starting right away. He's an aggressive playmaker, kind of just forces the ball into people sometimes. Really just smooth ball handler, too. Averaged 15 points a game last year, 3 boards, 3 assists, kind of a balanced guard, if you'd say. Not the biggest guy, but really solid playmaker, and that's what Ole Miss needs right now.
Exactly, Cam. And just to be able to have that depth and someone who can establish the backcourt, again, I've said it 1,000 times here, but you got to find someone who can take care of the ball other than Juju Murray and you can trust, right? And again, a guy who Chris Beard has prior connections with. So that excites me. Definitely going to be some smoke there, and I'm looking forward to see where he commits. But other than that, Cam, are you good to dive into the commits?
Yeah, you want to go ahead and start diving into Malik Dia, and I'll get him set up for his
Yeah,
videos
man.
right here.
Yeah, let's do it because I'm excited about him. Cam and I both saw, excuse me, both saw Dia in person at the Grove Bowl games. Just a massive human being. He's 6'9", 240 pounds, averaged 17 points per game, 6 rebounds. Again, rebounding is a massive issue on Chris Beard's team last year. So just someone who can score, who can rebound, and again, you guys will see in the clips here, he's able to kind of facilitate the offense when he gets the ball in the paint, which is something I like. Also, straight up just an elite finisher. I honestly couldn't even tell if he was a lefty or righty watching the beginning clips because he's doing it from both sides, Cam. So it's exciting.
Absolutely. You can see him right here, number 4 in the middle. Big guy, 240 pounds. Pretty aggressive guy, to say the least.
Very.
That's kind of what Ole Miss lacked last year at times. It seemed like at times in the paint, Ole Miss just didn't have a lot of aggressiveness down there, didn't force the ball into those big guys a lot. This is a big guy that you're going to force the ball and look right there, getting to the rim very
Yes.
aggressively there. Here he is again, getting to the basket. And he's a solid shooter, too. He'll show that in some of these clips. Block right there at the rim. We saw Jamarian Sharp get a lot of blocks last year, but this guy seems like he gets like just those tenacity type blocks that'll get the crowd fired up, that'll get his teammates fired up. There you see the jump
Right.
shot right there. Really just an all-around player. Like you said, we saw him this weekend, and he's a massive human being, and really excited for him at Ole Miss so far. You'll add John Ball to that. Musa Cisse is coming back,
Yes.
as far as we know. So really just a solid front court there, solid defending front court,
Yep.
and really excited for what Malik Dia will bring to the table for Ole Miss. If you want to hop into Mikael Brown-Jones, commitment from UNC Greensboro as well for Ole Miss.
Yeah, man. It went a little under the radar for me, I'll be honest, because I was kind of focused on Dia being in town. But this kid's an absolute stud. He's 6'8", 220, shot 54% from the field. That's going to jump off any stat sheet. And 43% from three-point range. So as much as he can get inside and be explosive in the paint, he can make that jumper. He can make that three-pointer. And again, I thought Alan Flanagan lacked that at times last year. So when you have a guy who is 6'8", who's able to shoot that three-point ball, I think he becomes just a much bigger threat in general.
Absolutely. And we can hop into some tape here on him right here. Like you said, he's really just a stud. Watching this highlight tape.
Yeah.
Can I get this to play
Straight
here?
up.
Okay, yeah. Watching his highlight tape, he's just kind of an all-around player. You see him there, top of the key.
Right.
Like I said, versatile forward at the bottom. I believe said the same about Malik Dia, but really just true about him here. He gets to the rim. He can shoot it. He plays defense. He's really aggressive. Just like a Chris Beard type of player that's really just going to set the culture. I mean, no pun intended wearing the shirt here, but yeah, just going to like that kind of guy's going to set the culture, play defense, really just be a gritty type of player. You see playing some defense right there. Really just excited for him, excited for him and Malik Dia to be together, excited for this recruiting class, this portal class hasn't stopped yet for Ole Miss, and really excited to see who they get next. Really, we've been talking about exactly they need to get a point guard.
Yes.
Jalen Murray said he's going to come back, but obviously we know Jalen Murray's more of a scorer, and nothing to knock Jalen Murray. He's a great scorer. He played great at point guard last year when he was playing. Struggled taking care of the ball at times, but I mean, he's a smaller guard, and he's really just a shooter and a scorer. That's what he's meant to do. And I think if they can get us a playmaker next year or find someone else to be a playmaker, Jalen Murray will probably excel more in a role where he's just scoring the basketball.
Exactly. And that's what they have to aim for, Cam. But as of right now, I think that front court with these forwards is lethal. Don't forget Brandon Murray's coming back. And he has a lot of potential, man. He does it all. He can jump out the gym. He can block shots. He can score. At times he shot it well last year. So I'm excited to see what kind of role he can fit in alongside to like right here, Brown-Jones, Dia, and maybe Dre Davis next year.
Absolutely. Excited about Brown-Jones and Dia. Keep an eye out for more men's portal talk. Hit a lot of names being thrown around the Ole Miss program, like Dre Davis and Pop Isaacs. So just keep an eye out for that. Keep an eye out for Chris Beard tweets or whatever, and just see Joe Tipton, whoever's going to tweet it out. And I'm sure we'll keep you guys updated on it as well. We're going to hop into a little bit of football. We'll first talk about the portal opening up. False report this morning on ESPN. Keyshawn Lawrence, walk-on linebacker for Ole Miss, entered the portal. I believe Ole Miss had a release on it, and ESPN just kind of ran with it and assumed that it was Key Lawrence. Not the biggest mistake. I mean, obviously, you just kind of see Key Lawrence, and assume it's the safety from Oklahoma. But Key Lawrence went to Twitter and commented some emojis that kind of made it think like he was a little shocked at that news. And then Kiffin was like April 16th Fools, I believe is what he commented about it. So a little clarification to clear that up. Not Key Lawrence from Oklahoma, who transferred in a couple months ago. He will be staying. It was a walk-on Keyshawn Lawrence who entered the portal. Other than that, defensive tackle Joshua Harris, who came in from NC State last year, he entered the portal, and tight end Javante Connor entered the portal. We want to talk about those guys and really just what that means for Ole Miss.
Yeah, Cam. Josh Harris, I thought he did a solid job last year. He was a space eater in that defensive tackle position. Did exactly what you wanted to. Not much more, not much less. You know what I mean? Total role player. But again, nothing wrong with that. I think with the talent coming in between Jeffrey Rush and Will Eccles, I think they're going to fill those gaps. We saw Jared Ivey up the middle last year. Xavier Harris, JJ Pegues, Walter Nolan. There's just a lot of bodies. So clearly Harris saw something. Maybe he probably wasn't going to play as much this year, and he decided he had to get out, go find a place where that was going to happen, right? Javante Connor, he entered, I believe, in the winter for about
I
a
believe so.
day, and then he took his name back in. He remained at Ole Miss, but again, it's just a loaded tight end room, and I think he realized this year he's probably not going to get much playing time, and I think he's ready to take that step and start playing immediately, Cam. But I'm curious, what do you think Ole Miss needs to target, and who specifically moving forward?
Absolutely. So, really, running back obviously need a running back in that room, just someone else to bring some another scholarship back in that room. Whether it's Henry
Yeah,
Parrish from Miami, who officially entered today, Damian Martinez from Oregon State, Penny Boone from Louisville. Louisville's having some trouble with some recruits there. Not sure what's going on
yeah,
there, but Penny Boone hasn't been connected to Ole Miss yet. But obviously, I just got a feeling that he's going to be in the mix because he's a bigger
for
name.
sure.
We'll see how that works out. Trent Howland from Indiana.
Yeah,
Huge guy. We talked about him before the pass. Huge guy in stature. We mean like just a monster of a running back, and he's rumored to connected with Ole Miss in the portal on social media on X earlier today. And then Morion Hampton from North Carolina, who is rumored to enter the portal. Did he enter the portal officially today?
nothing official, Cam. Just a lot of smoke there.
But he has the connection with Diego Pounds, obviously the left tackle who's at Ole Miss now, who was at UNC last year. But yeah, really that, and then an edge rusher. Obviously, the Tyler Barron stuff was thrown around. Not too sure how that's going to go with some NIL stuff working out with Louisville there. But obviously, some other edge rushers out there that Ole Miss are probably going to target. We'll see how that goes. But really, running back and edge rusher would like to see them probably try to take some roles there.
Yeah, 100%. And they might maybe another corner too. A lot of question marks there, but still, I do want to highlight Morion Hampton again. Nothing's official. He has not entered the transfer portal, but if he does, I would expect Ole Miss and Miami to pursue this kid hard. He was a top 5 rusher in college football last year. Finished with the 5th most rushing yards, 1,504. He rushed for 400 more yards than Ole Miss's leading rusher. I'm not going to draw any comparisons, but you can kind of figure that one out yourself. He also scored 15 touchdowns. He's a true sophomore, Cam. Like, if he enters the port, you got to go get him. That's all I'm saying.
Absolutely, and there's a lot of names out there for running back position that Ole Miss can go after. I would be happy with any of them. Obviously, Morion Hampton probably at the top of that list. Damian Martinez would be great to get as well. Wouldn't mind at all seeing Henry Parrish back in an Ole Miss uniform. Had a great year as a freshman here, and looked great at Miami. He obviously has a great connection with Kevin Smith, who has consistently produced good running backs at this point. So just keep an eye out for running backs and edge rushers in the portal for Ole Miss. Like Zach said, maybe a corner here or there. But really, other than that, no other guys really, no other position really of need. Like you said, the tight end room was stacked, the defensive line was stacked, but you see guys already into the portal from those positions.
Right.
And another guy I wanted to mention that's on the Ole Miss roster, Jamarius Brown, didn't get a lot of playing time last year.
Yeah,
he was a 4-star out of high school. Saw him at the spring games this weekend. Huge guy. He'll probably get in the mix there in the fall, and we'll maybe see him in the early games for sure. Still a young guy for Ole Miss, and if he sticks around, he has a chance to progress into a starting role in the future. Hopping into the Grove Bowl games, Zach, I wanted to say right off the bat for the Grove Bowl games, there was Phil Steele, well-known reporter, a well-known sports reporter, was commenting about the Ole Miss Grove Bowl games. He said, just watch the Ole Miss spring game. Got very little out of it. Dunk contest, tug-of-war, hot dog eating contest, an obstacle course, no pads during 7-on-7 football, 50-yard field, not worth watching. Don't waste your time. Ole Miss head coach Lane Kiffin, as we know, has a very relevant Twitter presence or X presence, and he found that reaction on Monday, and he clapped back with, "Who asked?" ? So I thought that was just pretty funny there. Obviously, a lot of speculation, a lot of controversy, I guess, around what happened this weekend with the Ole Miss spring game. It wasn't really a spring game. It was really a little bit of 7-on-7 football played. Not too much show. Jackson Dart didn't play too much. Trey Harris didn't play too much. A lot of the bigger name guys didn't play too much. Tavares Banks stood out to me at safety. Caden Lee stood out to me at receiver, and Walker Howard looked great in the 7-on-7. But not a lot of evaluating we could have done. Just it really was a party in general, Zach. I mean, we were both there. It was a fun time. And if you really just want to talk about what you liked about the weekend, some highlights of the weekend.
Yeah, man, you said it. It was just fun. Like, when that fourth quarter was ending, I was like, oh man, like this kind of sucks that this is over. But going back to that tweet, I think Phil kind of missed the purpose. Um, Lane designed this whole thing to take your attention away from a traditional spring game. He designed it to prevent injuries. He designed it to prevent showing specific depth charts. He doesn't want anyone seeing what the offense or the defense is going to look like. That's why there's a hot dog eating contest and a dunk competition. Some people didn't pick up on that. Clearly, it's all good. I forgive you, Phil. But yeah, it was a blast, man. And we got to meet Joey, AJ Brown, Elijah Moore, Katie Hill, just really good dudes. I really appreciate that. It was a great time. Pleasure meeting them and taking pictures. But again, just such a cool atmosphere. And shout out to the fans, too. I thought the fan base did a really good job, especially after last year's spring game. I know that was a bit of a controversy. There was essentially no one there. There was a big jump and a lot of progress, and I think you're going to continue to see that moving forward. And again, the marketing by Ole Miss football and by Lane is genius. So big credit to them for setting this thing up.
Yeah, like you said, the attendance was great this weekend at the Grove Bowl games. Expecting great attendance this year at the Ole Miss football games. It seems like ticket prices are going crazy. I believe student tickets just came out today. But yeah, it was a party. Joey Chestnut was there, hammered 20 hot dogs in what was it, a minute and a half. We got to take a picture with him. It was pretty dope. Obviously, we got to take a picture with AJ Brown. Elijah Moore, one of the nicest guys I ever met.
Yeah, great.
Really nice guy there. Another dunk contest, obstacle course, a lot of cool stuff happened. Brandon Turnage, if Chris Beard wasn't looking at him before, he's probably looking at him now.
Yeah,
Brandon Turnage looked great in that dunk contest. Obviously, he's a DB on that Ole Miss football team. But it was a great weekend in Oxford. Red team ended up winning it by 1 point. I think it was 71-70.
Yeah.
Dart talked about it, and him and JJ kind of were going back and forth in the press conference room. It was pretty funny. But Dart also talked about how this kind of just helped the bonding of the team. Really shows that everyone's locked in and bought in on the culture of the team and bought into the mentality of that last ride of all these seniors coming back and all those guys returning from last year. And I'm really excited for this team, really excited what they're going to do in the fall. And I'm just excited for this 2024 season coming up.
It's going to be – there's going to be a lot of history made, Cam, and I'm really looking forward to it. Just one last thing here. Dart said he was close to 100%. So, again, come summertime, I'd expect to see him full go. Obviously, Ole Miss football is going to post a bunch of stuff about him, as they always do. But just keep that in mind. Jackson was not 100% this spring. He clearly will be in the summer and obviously in the fall.
Absolutely. And before we leave you guys, I just wanted to leave some Ole Miss fans with one last thing here. If you've been an Ole Miss fan for a while, you've known there's not a lot of tenured coaches in the past, especially, I guess, in the past 2 decades, I guess you could say. The last Ole Miss head coach to be tenured for longer than 5 seasons was David Cutcliffe back in the late 90s, early 2000s. And before that was Billy Brewer. He was tenured for 10 years in the 80s to early 90s. Obviously, Hugh Freeze spent 5 years here, 2012 to 2016. But if you're Ole Miss fans, you got to like the stability. Obviously, Kiffin signed on for the years to come, barring any changes happening there. But you got to like the stability there with Kiffin. Obviously, you get to keep your coaches with Coach Yo always returning in these years, shooting down offers. And then Chris Beard shooting down multiple offers this offseason. And then Mike Bianco's been here for 20-plus years, and he keeps proving people wrong this weekend. Sat down a lot of heat this weekend. Yeah, and a lot of the pressure taken off of him and taking down State for the first time in 8 years. So, if you're Ole Miss fans, you got to like the stability there. You got to like that Lane Kiffin staying around. You got to like all the rest of the coaches staying around. It's a good time to be an Ole Miss Rebel.
It's a good time to be a Reb, Cam. That's all I got to say, man.
Absolutely. And that's all we got for you guys this week. Make sure to tune into therebelwalk.com for all your Ole Miss sports needs.